Live streaming is on.
Okay, here we go. We're back. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know why it's doing this. It didn't used to. Before I go back to the story, I'm going to give folks a minute or two to switch over to the new stream. Brian, get the keys. Come on, you got one job, man. One job.
I thought I was just sit here and look pretty.
Okay, two jobs. No offense, man. I don't find you particularly pretty.
That's all right.
I blame the fact I'm straight. I really need to look into a different option like Zoom or something. Okay, we got one person in the one viewer at the moment. So I was just getting a good part of the story, and that had to happen. I think after I finish the story, I'm going to talk a little about Houdini and about the seance, and then we'll get into some EVP. And then we'll do some more stories after we do some EVP. But just still giving people a chance. Okay, we've got Teresa. Do we have any other of our brave victims? It's like I wanted to give people a chance to come back before I continue the story, just by virtue of it's a good story. I don't want to have people jump in after the good part. But I guess I'm going to get started because we can't wait forever. So, here we go. People are starting to file in now, so I guess it's safe to go back. So here's the thing. For dramatic reasons, there's an aspect of this story I've left out so far. So before... Cute, Amisha. We can circle back to that question in a second. Although I personally tend to like to think I'm a different house. But the thing that we found out before this video happened, because the standard thing when you're doing an investigation, the first thing you're going to sit the client down there, you're going to have a chat and find out what's going on, find out the stuff that they didn't. So there's a problem with the streaming software. That's why we had to restart. I'm not sure why it's doing this. This is the same thing we used for the convention. Didn't have this problem. Now, for some reason, since the convention, it lasts an hour and then we get kicked off YouTube and have to start over again. Maybe it's a new thing YouTube's doing. That's the only guess I have. That said, so the part of the story I left out is all the things that I've described didn't start with him. First, it happened to his wife. His wife had all of these bizarre and terrifying experiences. He wasn't having them. He didn't believe her, in fact. She went to a priest. The priest didn't believe her. He dragged her to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist didn't believe her and put her on medicine. The only person who really believed her when he told these stories was her sister. One night, after she'd been seeing the psychiatrist for a while, she'd spent a while on medications, she got up. Her husband didn't wake up for this, but she gets up, she goes out to the living room, she opens up the cabinet, takes something out, gets in her car, drives down the street to the local grocery store that she actually worked at during the day, normally, puts the barrel of the gun in her mouth and pulls the trigger. Next morning, the cops show up. He finds everything out that has happened. He's understandably horribly distraught. That night is when it started happening to him. People will wonder, and trust me, I'm one of them from time to time, why I do what I do. Why doing this is so important to me, despite the fact that it's cost me a bunch of money over the years. I've never made money doing this. I do not take money from clients. That is against my personal ethics on the subject. But it was against Lou's. It was against Ed's. We don't take money. I have done speaking. I've spoken at conventions. I do this YouTube channel. I've done a whole lot of other things. But if you want to know the main reason I keep doing what I do, even though it costs me money rather than makes me money, this is why. This is why I don't laugh people off when they tell me things that sound bizarre. Even if you don't believe, I invite you to consider the possibility of what had happened if somebody had been a little more sympathetic to this woman, a little more willing to take her seriously, gone out and investigated the house, maybe just did something as simple as a house blessing. Even if you don't believe that spirits exist, think about the psychological side of it. Think about the Dumbo's feather type of side of it, of this is something that'll help. Even if it's a brief flash of hope. I don't want to see anyone die because no one wants to take them seriously. It doesn't mean I think that, I've never made a secret of the fact that I believe that spirits are real. This isn't to say that I think everyone who thinks they have a spirit in their house has a spirit in their house. That's a really good question, Kimball's. Kimball's asked, could it have been possible that she was influenced by the spirits? I should say spirits because there's definitely more than one in the house. Yes, it's extremely likely, not just possible. It also just might be that she couldn't take it anymore.
Were you ever able to do anything for the guy?
We did an exorcism we had an exorcism done over the house. More than one. In fact, I was only there for the first. And as I understand it, things that actually stop. Which is the other side of this. Is there are morons and simpletons that claim to be experts on the paranormal that will tell you that if your house is haunted, there is nothing that can be done for you. They're full of shit. There's always something that can be done. There are very rare houses. No, I will admit. There are very rare houses that cannot be exorcised. That house is going to be, the house in Maryland that was built on top of a graveyard. Even if you want to go all the bodies out of the property, put them in consecrated ground, and bless the ever-living heck out of the house, that house is always going to be haunted. But you can move the family moved out of the house and aren't having any problems anymore. With demonic cases, with cases that follow people that if you leave and move somewhere else, it will follow you. There's always something that can be done to help. Anyone who tells you that you can't get rid of a spirit, that there's nothing you can do, that you have to just learn to tolerate it, is an idiot. I can't be any more blunt. Thankfully, from what I've seen, I think that mindset has gotten less prominent in the paranormal community. It was very big in the 90s and the early 2000s because of a group called the International Ghost Hunter Society, the Philadelphia Ghost Hunters Alliance. The IGHS was run by a guy by the name of Dave Oster. Supposedly Dr. Dave, though his doctorate was baloney. He was an ordained minister and had a doctorate of divinity, which is an honorary doctorate to begin with, both through the Universal Life Church. Which, anyone who doesn't know what Universal Life Church is it's that church that will ordain anyone online for free. And if you're willing to spend a relatively small amount of money, I think it's around $12, or it used to be at $12 at the time, they will give you a doctorate of divinity. So yeah, it's utter nonsense. And this guy tried to build a career on it. The other thing that he did that was always delightful, aside from telling people they had to learn to live with spirits, no matter what the spirit was doing, was that he was obsessed with orbs, the pictures of dust. He thought they were the clear proof that spirits existed. And yeah, there are. No, I haven't looked into this bonehead in years, so I just brought up his group. And the claim, he died in 2019, apparently. But let's see. He claims to have been the father of the online paranormal community and the orb theory. There is no orb theory. It's just something gullible people who don't know anything about photography believe. That, well, if you don't know what an orb is, look it up. It's quite funny because if you look up anyone who knows anything about photography, they'll tell you it's dust. And him claiming to have followed the online paranormal community, it's like Vu was far more important in getting that going than he ever was. Although he will train his website. Oh, good Lord! Certified Ghost Research Course, Photo Analysis of Anomalies, which is all about or the importance of orbs. Certified Paranormal Investigator, Home Study Course on Certified Quantum Practitioner, Certified Paranormal Counselor, Certified Ghost Box Specialist. And a course on Reiki.
I wonder if he certifies all these things.
He does, and he did, because most of them were created by him. Yeah. If anyone wants a chuckle, just go to ghostweb.com. You can see. Don't take my word for it. You can see how out of touch this group is. Actually, funny enough, Kimball's commented, yeah, you can get rid of spirits and/or demons. The demons can prove to be more difficult. I would actually say it's the other way around. It's much easier to get rid of a demon, generally speaking, than it is to get rid of a ghost. Because demons are bound by divine law. You can make them leave. Human spirits have free will. If they don't want to go, you can't make them go. Ghosts are also significantly less dangerous. Gibbons asked if I'd ever watched Steve Huff's channels, and no, I have not. I'm not familiar with that particular one. There's a whole bunch of... there's a lot of paranormal groups and investigators in the world. As much as I would like to, because there are many wonderful groups out there and investigators, it's impossible for me to keep on top of all of them. Although the more I think about that name, Steve Huff does sound familiar. Although that may just be a psychological, now that I think about it kind of thing, not a, they really remind that I remember who this person is. So don't quote me on that. So, I did promise we were going to try and do some EVP tonight. And before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about Harry Houdini and the seance tonight and what makes Halloween so significant in terms of Houdini's story. So, Harry Houdini, pretty much everyone who's listening to this has almost certainly heard of the man. He is the most famous magician and escapologist in American history, probably world history. If you ask school children, they're likely to know who Houdini is, even if they don't know anything about him. The name is just that well known. Even people who think of other magicians, you think famous magician. There's lots of them at this point. There's the Harry Blackstone Sr. and Jr. There's David Copperfield, David Blaine, Dynamo. But almost everybody remembers Houdini. In fact, a lot of the tricks that people are famous for doing now are either just tricks that Houdini did or tricks Houdini did kicked up a notch. Escaping a straitjacket's popular. Escaping from being buried alive is extremely dangerous but popular. Although Houdini never actually finished that particular trick. He was working on it up to the day he died and was buried in the coffin he was planning on using for it. Reportedly, for that matter, he nearly died trying to pull off that escape at least once. But what makes today so special for fans of Harry Houdini is that Houdini died on October 31st, 1926. Now, a lot of people at 1:26 p.m., I should say, he died in a hospital at the age of 52. A lot of people don't know the truth of what happened. They think that he died in the water torture tank. That's not actually true at all. There's also the famous story that while he was in a dressing room at the Princess Theatre in Montreal, he was punched by a McGill University student, Jocelyn Gordon Whitehead, who was a collegiate boxer, who struck Houdini in the stomach multiple times. But the story goes that Whitehead walked into the room and asked Houdini if he believed in the miracles of the Bible and whether it was true that punches in the stomach would not hurt him. Houdini gave a very casual reply that his stomach could endure a lot. Whitehead then comes over and delivers a series of hammer-like blows below the belt. Houdini, and let's be clear, Houdini wasn't standing up. He wasn't in any position to take a punch. In fact, he was laying on a couch because he had broken his ankle during a stunt a few days before this. He winched at each blow and then stopped Whitehead suddenly in the midst of a punch, gesturing that he'd had enough, and ending that he had no opportunity to prepare himself against the blows, because he didn't expect to be struck so suddenly and forcefully. Had his ankle not been a burden, he would have risen from the couch into a better position to brace himself. Because it was true that during performances, Houdini would invite professional boxers and weightlifters to come up on stage and punch him. Because he had practiced, one, he was in phenomenal shape, and two, he had practiced various techniques for tightening the muscles of his abdomen so he could absorb blows very well. It was some people who had punched him described it as punching a tree trunk. It was so tough. That night, he was in a great deal of pain. He had performed despite being in pain. He was unable to sleep, remained in constant pain for the next 2 days, but he wouldn't seek medical help. In fact, in his defense, because a lot of people have mistakenly thought it was because he was proud, that's why he wouldn't seek medical help. That's not the case. He didn't seek medical help because he was supposed to perform at another theater, I want to say in New York, although I may be mistaken. And when he wired the theater to say, hey, look, I can't go on stage, I need to go see a doctor, they were terrified because they'd had riots. And actually, looking at the information, it's actually in Detroit. But, when he got to a doctor, he had a fever of 102, and he had severe appendicitis. Was told he needed immediate surgery. He was because of the theater was terrified about having riots if he didn't go on stage. He decided the show must go on. He continued onward. He went on stage on October 24th, 1926, at the Garrick Theater in Detroit, Michigan. His fever was 104 degrees. He went on stage, passed out during the show, revived and continued. Afterwards, he was hospitalized at Detroit's Grace Hospital. People have often blamed everything that happened on him being punched in the stomach. It's not really true. Being punched in the stomach will not cause appendicitis. Appendicitis is caused by a bacterial infection. Basically, what happened was that on the night of the 24th, his appendix ruptured, leading to peritonitis, and then the peritonitis. He fought it for a week, and there was newspaper reports everywhere about would he defeat death, would he survive, and then of course on Halloween night at 1:20 or Halloween afternoon, in fact, at 1:26 in the afternoon, he died. Now, Houdini had during his life, because he was a famous debunker of spiritualists. The thing that people don't realize about Houdini is he was not trying to prove that spiritualism wasn't a thing. He started out trying to find somebody who could really talk to the dead. It was very important to him.
Because of his mother.
To find someone legitimate, someone who wasn't faking. Yes, Lisa, I'm actually going to do EVP to try to reach him shortly now. But he made a deal with his wife, or he made several arrangements with people during his life, that if one of them died first, they'd try to come back and communicate with Houdini. And there was a specific code. Rosalind, and then I forget the other. It was Rosalind, and then a word, but the word was encoded in a secret code. Rosalind being him and his Houdini and his wife Bess's favorite song. But they decided he made a deal with his wife Bess with a specific different code, or it may have been the same code. I'm not entirely certain. That if a medium claimed to contact Houdini, Bess would know it was really him. For 10 years, Bess conducted a seance every year on Halloween in an attempt to reach Houdini. At the end of 10 years, with every year being a complete failure, a final seance by Bess was conducted on the roof of the Knickerbocker Hotel. She famously said, and there's even a surviving recording of it, that 10 years is long enough to wait for any man. She believed that spirits and ghosts did not exist, and that any attempt to communicate with the spirit world was fake. It was impossible. There was no way to do so. At that time, other people continued the seance. Most notably, Dick Brooks and Dorothy Dietrich, who's a very prominent magician, have continued doing a seance in New York City every year in an attempt to reach Houdini. Now, the story I'd always heard, and I found out taking part in it today, that it's not quite the truth, is that nothing ever happens. Apparently, nothing concrete. I mean, they haven't had Houdini's voice manifest or anything quite so dramatic. But we're sitting around, and the Society of American Magicians is supposed to put up the video of this, because ultimately what happens is we're still in the middle of a pandemic here, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't noticed. So obviously they're not going to have an in-person seance. They decided to hold one online, with Dorothy and Dick leading. And if anyone is interested and lives in the area, the two of them run a museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania, dedicated to Houdini. It is very cool. They're absolutely wonderful, delightful people. I highly recommend you go check it out. The price may have changed, but the last time I was there, which was a couple of years ago, it was only about $20. And it's 2 hours. You get the time to spend in the museum, and they do a live magic show. Including some classic effects you don't see as often anymore. I would certainly recommend it. I enjoy the heck out of it. I'd probably go again soon, except, of course, for obvious reasons, they're not doing tours currently, again, because it's a global pandemic, and they're responsible human beings. But I would recommend checking it out. But while we're doing it today, there's a candelabra, I guess, although it was only 3 candles, sitting in the middle of the table. And the light, despite being in a room without any fans, and despite everyone involved being very dedicated to doing things honestly and not trying to think something, the flames in the candles flickered like crazy when they were asking for a sign. For that matter, there was a old object with a stamp that would put Houdini's picture on something that just fell over very early on in the attempt at a seance. And I'll say this: I was watching at one point, and the 3 flames in the candles like all wavered back and forth very quickly together in a very unusual way, particularly without some sort of breeze or something. I mentioned, and I'm going to mention this for anybody who was part of the seance, because I actually was given the chance to speak, because normally everyone who wasn't presenting was muted, but I was invited to speak to describe what I saw happen, heard, I should say, happen. And I think I now know what happened, and it's not nearly as interesting. But I heard what sounded like music, like scratchy old-time music, happen right around 1:40 p.m., because we, again, started at 1:26. Now, thinking back on it, I think what's actually happening is an issue with the audio coming through my headset. I don't think it was anything paranormal. I do want to ask before I go any further, Brian, are you still awake?
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm here.
Brian, I can't hear anything you're saying, dude.
Uh-oh.
Can anyone? Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's odd. My volume got turned down. I'm hoping you heard what I said, at least.
Yeah, I've been listening.
Okay, I'm just like, oh, crud, did I not mute my volume or something and nobody heard all that stuff I just said? That'd be really depressing. Okay, cool. Everybody can hear. So everybody can hear Evan. Isn't going to be a waste. It's going to be a total waste of time if nobody can hear anything. But so what we're about to try to do is reach Houdini, and for that matter, I'm going to probably throw in a few other people. But we're going to start with trying to reach Harry Houdini. Given the amount of, in my opinion, surprising. Although I've never been to his seance, so I don't know for certain. But the amount of interesting, at the very least, activity at the seance. And again, it's Halloween. It's the night that he died. It's the night when the wall between worlds becomes thin. So we're going to use two particular devices to try to reach spirits. One of which is a device known as a ghost box, which is this doohickey right here. Hopefully people can see this.
Yep. There
we go. This is a P58 or PSB7 spirit box. These devices, which have been a very recent thing in the paranormal community, I started hearing about them maybe 5 years ago, a little longer, are actually quite interesting because it's actually based on a design that was created by Thomas Edison. It's not well known, but Edison, late in life, became very interested in spiritualism and in trying to communicate with spirits of the dead. He started work on a phone to speak to dead people. Then, a more recent engineer found his plans and designed devices like this to attempt to complete his work. The way that this works is it's basically just an old-fashioned AM/FM radio. I'm going to turn it on, power. There we go. Here you can hear it's on static, it's just on white noise. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it up so people can hear it better. Is I'm going to have it sweep through channels. And actually, Lisa, no, this is not normally a thing that tunes in white noise. That's normally EVP. We'll do that in a second. That's another way of doing EVP, which is what we're going to do in a second. What this does is it sweeps through radio stations very quickly. And it'll spit out garbled bits of music, voices, and things of that nature. The theory is that spirits can in some way manipulate this and cause voices to come out of it. I've talked to people who have claimed to have very, very clear, very specific voices, like having famous comedian Joanne Rivers come through right after she passed away. I've not had a whole lot of luck with them, but I do have one, and I thought we'd give it a go and see what happens. So we'll set sweep. Okay. And then I'll set it to sweep. So as you may be able to hear at the moment, it's currently sweeping through AM stations of noises. No, actually, I think I'll go back to AM or FM. Because all we're getting is static, and that's interesting in its own right. Maybe I'll slow it down, actually. There we go. It's getting through it at 200 milliseconds, apparently. There we go, 300. So the first thing we'll do, which is what we do in normal EVP session, is just going to let it run quietly for a moment. Then I'm going to try asking a question or two and see if anything comes out. No, I definitely think I want to go. There we go. There, we're skipping through FM stations now. And if you listen, you can hear music come through occasionally, things of that nature. Okay, let's try some questions and see if anything happens. If there are any spirits here, give us a sign. If there are any spirits here, give us a sign. Harry Houdini, if you're out here, can you give us a sign? Can you communicate through this device? This is not producing. I mean, I'm not even hearing like voices coming through the radio.
Nah.
At the moment, I think I'm going to just stick to what I've always had better luck with, which is traditional electronic voice phenomenon. So we've got a Sony Panasonic IC recorder, ICD-67. This is a version of a recorder that was commonly used by my own mentor, the late Lou Gentili, to contact spirits. For those of you who don't know how EVP works, I'm going to hit record. I'll give the date and time. We'll give it a bit of a pause, and then we're going to ask some questions and see if anybody feels inclined to answer them. Between each question, there'll be like a 20 to 30 second delay. After we get through a couple, we'll play it back and see if anything happens. I by no means guarantee we're going to get any kind of result, but we can try. Beginning of EVP number 1. It is October 31st, 7:35 p.m. and it's 2020. And I'll actually advertise your channel directly in a second, Lisa, but you're always welcome to advertise on my channel. Like I said, at the moment, we're going to wait a little bit of time, and then I'm going to start asking questions. If there are any spirits here, give us a sign. If there are any spirits here, give us a sign. Harry Houdini, you died on October 26th, or October 31st in 1926. People have tried every year since your death to reach you. If you are there, can you give us a sign? Harry, do you have any message for people from beyond the grave? Harry, now that you're dead, has your opinion of mediums changed? Is there any other spirits here? Feel free to give us a sign. Say something on the recording. End of EVP number 1. Now we'll play it back and see if we got anything. Wait. Oh, there we are. Oh, that might be the problem there. Okay, Brian, now I'm seeing you double. That's strange.
Yeah, my laptop suddenly decided to reboot.
Weird. I'm not quite sure that worked. Huh. Or if it did, it recorded in another place. Okay, let's see.
Halloween 2019, final EVP.
Oh, that's from last year.
Beginning of EVP number 2, Halloween night.
Okay.
Beginning of EVP number 1, this is October 31st, 2019.
Nope. Okay, we had a slight technical problem where it didn't record properly. Technology, gotta love it. We'll try this again. Beginning of EVP number 1, October 31st, 2020, 7:39 p.m. If there are any spirits here, give us a sign. If there are any spirits here, give us a sign on this recording. Harry Houdini, you died today in 1926. Do you have any message for us from the other side? Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add tonight? Harry, has your opinion of mediums changed in the years since your death? Does anyone out there have a message for me? End of EVP number 1. Let's see.
Beginning of EVP number 1, October 31st, 2020, 7:39 p.m. If there are any spirits here, tonight. Harry, has your opinion of mediums changed in the years since your death? Does anyone out there have a message for me?
So far, I'd say we're not having much luck, but it's only the first attempt.
Harry's not among our listeners.
Maybe he's not a fan. I do want to address a couple of things real quick from the chat. One, Lisa, you had asked, and I'm more than happy to do so. Folks, if you're not familiar with her already, I would recommend going and checking out Lisa for Truth's YouTube channel. She has a lot of very good videos. She and I have different perspectives on things, with her being an atheist and myself being a Christian, but we get along really well, and I have a lot of respect for her channel. She has a lot of good information. Particularly, she's some really good episodes on the satanic panic of the 80s. But I recommend checking out. I've done videos on it before, but she goes into far greater detail than I can. Also, Lisa asked a good question, which I can confirm, which was, wasn't Harry Hungarian? And yes, Harry was born in Hungary. His mother was Hungarian as well, of course, as was his father. But he came over to the United States very young and spoke English, I should say, fluently. Religiously, he was Jewish. In fact, he's buried in a cemetery in New York, which is a Jewish cemetery. The aforementioned Dorothy Dietrich and Dick Brooks have been responsible for the upkeep on his grave for a number of years now. They were talking about trying to raise some money because there's some work that needs to get done on it, unfortunately. Not so much with vandalism, thank God, but there's just the realities of it's older, and you know, there's some wear and tear that's happened to it. There's some things that have been done by people who mean well, who don't really understand what they're doing. And just some repairs that need to get done. Well, there's an interesting story there as well, because the monument itself had been broken. They had it replaced, and apparently they had an interesting experience replacing it, where they had a red-tailed hawk land on a monument overlooking Harry's and just sit there for some time. And then while they were working, it actually jumped onto the ground and came even closer to them. This is particularly interesting, both because it's odd behavior for a wild animal. What's more telling, though, is that in that last show Houdini did, he actually used a red-tailed hawk. Which, at least to me, kind of seems like he has made himself known in various ways, if not quite the dramatic sort of way that people would like. That's a really interesting question, Lisa, and I think we'll give her a go next. Because we got to start a second attempt. And I think with some trepidation I will add her, and I'm going to also try to reach out to Lou and Father Joe, as well as Houdini again with the second one. But Lisa, for comment, have I ever tried to contacting Marie Laveau? And the answer is no, not before tonight. I have some trepidation, particularly because she is such an important figure in the history of voodoo, to the point that she's revered nearly as a deity at this point. And I don't like to step on the toes of other religious groups in that way. So I'm not particularly scared of the idea, but it's I don't want to disrespect somebody else's beliefs, whether I share them or not, or do something that someone might find offensive. Particularly to people, at least to religions that I don't find offensive, and I don't find voodoo offensive. When I say, as frequent listeners know, and anyone who hasn't listened before, I'll point out to you, when I say religious groups I find offensive, I mean idiots like the Make America Straight Again movement that wants the government to start mass executing homosexuals. I find that offensive. Just because you worship a different deity than me, I don't care, unless you want to start committing crimes in the name of your God. And in which case, yeah, I care, even if your God's my God. So, no. Live and let live, be peaceful people. I'm big on that. But let's give this a go again. We can actually try. We'll take the suggestion and see if we can't reach Lavelle. What can it hurt? Famous last words. Beginning of EVP number 2. Again, it's still Halloween night, 2020. So, are any spirits here? Give us a sign. Marie Laveau, Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the world in this year of 2020? Again, Harry Houdini, legendary magician, debunker of spiritualists. I know you've wanted, in your life, you were very clear that you wanted to find evidence. If you're out there and you have the ability to reach us, that'd be a good start. Lou Gentili, I don't remember the number of times you and I sat around your house, your living room, some hot summer night when your family was down the shore, just trying to pick up EVP. During when we did broadcasts of the radio show, we tried to get EVP. So many different houses. Lou, if you're out there, how about giving us a sign? Father Joe, of the people that we're mentioning, is the one who passed away the most recently. We did EVP a time or two as well, and I know you did them with Lou. Am I right? And give us a sign. Particularly let me know if I'm right in my assumption. There's an angel assigned to you right now just to make sure you finally take some time off because you need it. If there's anyone else who would like to give us a sign, feel free to do so. End of EVP.
EVP number 2. Again, still Halloween night, 2020. So any spirits here, give us a sign. Marie Laveau, Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the world this year of 2020? Again, Harry Houdini, legendary magician, the bunker of spiritualists. I know you wanted, in your life, you were very clear that you wanted to find evidence. If you're out there and you have the ability to reach us, that'd be a good start. We're just telling you, I don't remember the number of times you and I sat around your house, your living room, some hot summer night when your family was down the shore, just trying to pick up EVP. During when we did broadcast the regular show, we tried to get EVP. So many different houses. Lou, if you're out there, how about giving us a sign? Father Joe, of the people that we're mentioning, is the one who passed away the most recently. We did EVP a time or two as well, and I know you did them with Blue. And by the way, give us a sign. If you wasn't out there writing my assumption, there's an angel assigned to you right now just to make
I'd love to get results one of these times we do EVP on the show. I'm going to do one more attempt before we call it a night. But I don't have high hopes something's going to happen. I'll be completely honest with people. The main reason my intention is to call it quits before we hit 8 o'clock because I don't want to have to start over a third time. You know, it's like twice is enough, thanks. Before we start the last EVP, does anybody have any questions or comments from the chat? Anything you want me to ask in this last go-round? Anybody? Bueller. Okay. How about you, Brian? You have any questions you want me to ask the other side?
Not really.
I know one question we have to ask. Because all of you, and you, Brian, in particular, I know you're dying to know the answer to this. Because everyone wants the answer to this, myself included. So let's do one more time, one more for the road. If we actually start getting some indication of results, then I'll keep going. But I don't want to go on and on and on if nothing's happening, as I'm sure everyone can understand. Especially, again, because we probably have to start a third, part 3, because of the stupid stopping at the hour mark. Beginning of EVP number 3. Again, it's still Halloween night. It's still 2020. There are any spirits here, give us a sign on this recording. To ask the question everyone is dying to know, is Elvis really dead? And have you seen him lately? Lou, come on, you've come through for me on EVP before. You can do it again. I know somewhere up there you and Father Joe would probably are having a good chuckle about this right now. Say something. All right, this is the last chance. I'm not going to try this again until next year. You were a major influence on me when I was growing up, on Dorothy Dietrich, and on so many other people. If you're out there and you're able, give us a sign on this recording. Or heck, knock on the table. Turn the light off. I'm not picky. Well, I'd rather not kill my internet connection because then that's just going to be annoying. If there are any spirits here, give us a sign. Into VVP. There's a couple of sounds in the background, but I'm pretty sure that's just the clicking and tinkering of the recorder. There's nothing clear enough. On the other hand, Teresa Hall Gulf City Pagan just shared in the chat that the coyotes there have just started howling.
Oh,
Well, it is a full moon.
true.
This is at least the fourth or fifth time we tried to do EVP on the show. Second Halloween I've tried in a row that I've tried doing it on the show.
Yeah.
But it won't be the last time. Maybe I'll try and do EVP again. I have a new recorder I haven't really tried out yet. We could test that. Not tonight, some future night. And you got a bunch of new gizmos we could play with potentially. I hope everybody's enjoyed this Halloween special. It's been sort of random, I know. But I had fun doing it. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. Did a couple ghost stories, did some failed EVP. What can I say? Maybe next time we'll get something. Only one. Oh wow! Teresa commented, "Only one pack. She's disappointed the other two didn't chime in." I happen to love coyotes. They're one of my favorite animals. I've only ever seen one in my life. Granted, I saw him twice, but only the one. Only the one. Now, the one very haunted, in fact, site I used to work had a coyote that would hang out from time to time. Like, I remember at least one night watching him chase a bunch of deer. Just going around a corner, and I see this deer go flying across the path behind me. I'm like, oh, what got him so startled? And then I see Willie, as I always called him, jump after him. It's like, oh! But that is going to do it for tonight, folks. I want to cut this before we hit 8 and have it canceled again. So this is Kevin Mears. You're saying good night, God bless, happy Halloween, and blessed Samhain for those of you who practice that. And Brian McKinley saying, keep your fangs sharp. And that'll do it for tonight. Tune in next week, everybody. Good night. I love it.